Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. Just thank you for being here this morning. What it is to welcome you to our Sunday service. I'd like to begin today by just taking a moment to encourage you to realize how important you are. What a wonderful soul you truly are. To relax into your goodness, to your kindness, to know that presence within you that is so very important, and to realize the good that you do not only to yourself, but to so many others. Please never underestimate the importance of you being you. And also I'd like to mention how important it is for each one of us to support each other. Hasn't it been wonderful during this past week where we could hear each other's voices and feel the energy in our group discussions? Just knowing that we are present to each other makes such a difference in our lives. And may I encourage you to realize not only are we supportive to each other, but we're so supportive to the people with whom we share our daily living, giving them encouragement, reducing fear and separation, and bringing them that sense of kindness and goodness, that loving presence within us. And lastly, I would certainly want to mention the fact that I hope you feel and understand that what you're doing is a part of the evolution, not only of our species, but it's also the evolution of our planet. We live differently. We do not live by third-dimensional fear and anxiety and separation and worry, but rather we live from that place within, that presence within ourselves that gives forth a sense of love and goodness, and yet is so very intelligent, enables us to assess what is going on and see very clearly. May you truly see yourself as part of the vanguard of the evolution of humanity and our planet. Just before I get into our major topic today, what I'd like to suggest to you is that during this past week, and even right now, when we were able to hear each other's voices and feel that loving energy within us, did you not get at that moment, and perhaps even right now, a sense of joy within yourself? Just that inner feeling that for a moment the worry was gone and you just felt that presence within you. Perhaps you're feeling that even now. What I want to suggest to you is that that joy within you and the joy within me, this is our connection. This is our connection in oneness. And whenever we are connected in oneness, this joy within us comes to the fore. What I just want to suggest to you is that this joy within you, call it kindness, goodness, peace, love, this presence within you, this is the elixir of life. This is our bliss. And this is the place from which more and more of us are consciously living. May we go forward in this way, bringing this beautiful, beautiful energy for the evolution of our species and planet. With that in mind, let me now proceed to our topic today, the coronavirus part 2, a helpful advocate, the fourth dimension. You might want to take some notes during this presentation. As the scientific community races for a treatment and eventually a cure for the coronavirus, the whole world is seemingly willing to try anything for relief, from dandelions to quinine to apple cider vinegar and zinc. There are so many things that are out there, hopefully trying to give us a cure. What I would like to suggest to you is that there is another possible antidote. Another possible antidote. A very, very helpful antidote that we can access right now. It is called the fourth dimension of thought. Again, I want to be very clear and very practical, but I also would like to be very elevating in the presentation this morning. What I'd like to first do is offer an introductory comment, then a brief review, And then lastly, get to the antidote itself, the fourth dimension of thought. First, an introductory comment. For eons, philosophers and spiritual teachers have noted that we seem to have two selves. We seem to have two selves. The first self has to do with identifying ourselves physically as a body, and then identifying ourselves with our place in the world. This is the everyday sense of self that most of us see ourselves as. It is a combination of the human self and the worldly self. It is who most people think that they are, that we are physical bodies and that we are in a physical world. That's why the coronavirus is very, very harmful for many people, because it has a tendency to attack the physical body, and certainly has it not threatened our situation in the world. That's the first sense of self. But also there is a second sense of self, and that second sense of self has been called by various names: the inner self, the higher self, the inner you, the Atman, awareness, consciousness, presence, the God Spirit. Let's simply call it your soul self. While your human understanding and worldly self make decisions about putting food on the table and what you have to do to get by in the world today, the soul self has its own area of expertise. The soul self answers questions like, what are your values? Who is important in your life? And why are they important in your life? What's the meaning of life? How should you act day in and day out? And particularly, what happens to you when you physically pass out of your body and physically pass out of the world? The soul self handles the bigger questions of life, yet works very harmoniously with the human and worldly aspects of yourself that deal with more practical, immediate needs. Both selves are very important. Both selves are very helpful in their own particular areas, and whenever they're working well together, it's our best case scenario. So much for the two selves. Now for a brief review. In last Sunday's presentation on the coronavirus, I mentioned what a dimension is, and specifically two dimensions of self-awareness. You might recall that a dimension is a level of consciousness. A dimension is a level of consciousness. It's a way of seeing things through a certain lens. It's a certain way of understanding. And then you recall I said that we have two main dimensions of thought. The first one is the third dimension of thought, how the human self and your worldly self see themselves. It is primarily involved with the stuff that you're involved in, from raising kids, getting a job, cutting the grass, and all of the organizations you belong to, from social, business, political, religious. In addition, however, to the third level of thought, we also have, in a sense, a fifth dimension of thought. And I define the fifth dimension of thought not so much as your human worldly self, but much more as your soul self. The fifth dimension of thought has to do with the meaning you give to the stuff. It has to do with the meaning that you give to the stuff. It has to do with the meaning of the things that you're involved with. The soul self focuses much more on your sense of who you are. It focuses more on how you see other people. And it focuses also on all of the stuff that you're engaged in the world. It is that part of you, the soul self, that is connected to the God Spirit. It is your inner compass that gives direction to everything else. While you certainly have a body and a worldly identity, let me say it again, we all have bodies and we all have worldly situations. They are not who we are. Who we are is the soul self. It is who you are. Before you came into human existence, while you are in human existence here in the world, and after your human existence beyond. It is the eternal you, and from it you are guided in the world, especially during this time of the coronavirus. It is the soul self that gives direction to your human and worldly self. End of the review. Let us now proceed into today's teaching. Some of you perhaps very astutely ask, what happened to the fourth dimension? Did we skip it? No, not at all. In fact, it is the fourth dimension of thought that has a possible antidote to the coronavirus. Let me explain. Let me ask, sit back, relax, and take this in. The fourth dimension of thought. And remember, a dimension is a state of consciousness. The fourth dimension of thought has to do with your mind. Your mind. Your mind. And the fourth dimension of thought has two primary characteristics. The first one is free will. The simple fact of the matter is that nothing determines you except you. Nothing determines you except you. Freedom is a primary consideration of the fourth dimension. You are free to create your reality. In fact, whether you understand it or not, you are creating your reality all the time, because your thoughts, what you think, direct what you're going to be doing. No one can tell you what to think, but whatever you think is what you're going to do, and it is what you are becoming. You cannot not create who you are. You are free. Now here's the point. Here's the point. Because you are free, you can either create your future from a more limited third-dimensional view of life, primarily focusing on the body and the world, or you are free to choose a fifth dimension of life that gives a more complete view of life. More about this in just a moment. There is a second aspect of the fourth dimension that is very important and certainly now enters the picture. In addition to being free, the fourth dimension includes your rational mind. It includes your ability to think. You are a thinking being. Remember Descartes' words, I think, therefore I am. In fact, you are a free thinking being. Let me say it again. The fourth dimensional self is being a free thinking being. I'll say it one more time. The fourth dimensional self is being a free thinking self. Now, as we focus in on the rational mind and its freedom, let me now tell you what the rational mind does extremely well, and then also tell you the basic fault of that free, rational mind. First, there are two particular things that the rational mind does very well. Two things that this rational mind of yours does really, really well. The first thing that the rational mind does very well is to help you with your body and the everyday world made up of the material things in which, in a sense, you're involved. The rational mind, that free, intelligent mind, tells you to wash your hands frequently during this time, tells you to maintain social distancing, tells you to buy all of the necessary groceries and paper products. It is very good at this. The rational mind keeps you functioning in the everyday world. The rational mind keeps you functioning in the everyday world. More about it in just a moment. Secondly, however, the rational mind is also really good at giving you choices. In fact, it's stellar at giving you choices. We have many, many phrases concerning the mind's ability to give you choices, such as 6 one, half dozen the other. Could be this, or it could be that. And how many times have you laid awake at night thinking, what shall I do concerning my health? Could be this, could be that. Should I move? Could be this, could be that. Should I get a new job? Could be this, could be that. Should I end my marriage? Could be this, could be that. Should I raise my children in a certain way? You realize you just have choices. You could do it this way, or you could do it that way. This very strength of giving you choices, this very strength of giving you choices reveals the weakness of the mind. Let me explain. The mind is terrific at giving you choices, and it is terrific at implementing a choice. But of itself, the mind is a terrible decision maker. It is a terrible decision maker because the function of the mind was never meant to make decisions. It's terrific at giving you choices. And once the choices are made, it's terrific at implementing a plan of action. But it's terrible at making decisions, not about putting gas in your car, not about cutting the lawn, but it's terrible at making larger life issues, decisions. How do you view your present attitude towards the coronavirus and your life situation? What will you do during these times? What will be your relationship to others during these times? The question then legitimately arises, what gives direction to the mind? What gives direction to this fourth dimension of thought? The answer is quite simple. The answer is your sense of self. Let me say it again. What gives direction to your mind is your sense of self. If your sense of self is of the third dimension, which focuses primarily on your body and your worldly situation, the mind will certainly be a helper to this third dimension. It will assist you during these times. It's really good at that. It will help you to be very wary, very, very cautious of what might happen to you physically, or your life situation, or to the people around you and their life situations. Well, you might say, well, what's wrong with that? Nothing. Nothing wrong with that, because the rational mind is a great helper through to the third dimensional sense of self that you have. But what I'm suggesting is this. I am suggesting that the fourth dimension, your free rational mind, can be a helpful antidote to the coronavirus, because it can be a bridge to your higher fifth dimensional sense of self, which gives you a much more complete view of life. I'm going to repeat this. What I'm suggesting to you is that the fourth dimension, your free rational mind, can be a possible antidote to the coronavirus, because it can be a bridge to your higher fifth dimensional sense of self, which gives you a much more complete view of life. As I said, the free rational mind is a terrible decision maker, but it doesn't have to be ruled by lower third dimensional senses of self that are dominated by fear and uncertainty. You don't have to allow fear and uncertainty to take over. What the free rational mind can say is that I have another choice. Remember, choice, choosing, freedom, is what the mind is good at. I can choose to go to my higher fifth dimensional self, which is the God Spirit within me. I just say it again. What the fourth dimensional rational mind can do is says, I have another choice. I'm going to go to the God Spirit within me to give guidance through these times. Thus, the fourth dimension of the free rational mind becomes a bridge to the fifth dimensional sense of self, and serves as an antidote to the lower third dimensional fears and anxieties. Let me say it again. The fourth dimensional free rational mind becomes a bridge to the fifth dimensional sense of self, and serves as an antidote to the lower third dimensional fears and anxieties. Now you might say, well, what would such a choice look like? Let me suggest the following. Rather than dipping down into worry and fear of the third dimension, you might elevate into the calmness of the fifth dimension. Rather than dipping down into me only, you might elevate into concern for others. Rather than dipping down into the third dimension of separation, you might elevate into the fifth dimension of oneness. Rather than dipping down into nationalism, you might see yourself globally. Rather than dipping down into judgment, you might see yourself with more understanding. Rather than dipping down into uncertainty, you may elevate into the fifth dimension of inner guidance. Rather than dipping down into the third dimension of death to the body, you might elevate into the fifth dimension of the continuity of the soul. Do you not clearly see these things? You now may want to ask, well, couldn't a fourth dimension of the free rational mind do both things? Could it not be a helper to the third dimension by taking care of your body and your worldly situation, and be a bridge to the fifth dimension, thus allowing your soul self to combat fear and guide you to calmness, goodness, and oneness? Of course it can. It's what it's meant to do. But do you not see then? Do you not see then that the fourth dimension of the free rational mind has become a possible antidote to the coronavirus, because now it has served as a bridge to free you from the limited third-dimensional view of life and to bring you to the fifth-dimensional view of life, which is so much more complete. Do you not see this? In this fifth-dimensional view of life, we see ourselves as Christed beings of light and love in the physical body, and yet beautifully functioning in the third-dimensional world from the elevated sense of consciousness. In conclusion, each one of you will make the decision of who you are because, well, you're free to do so. Your sense of self will come from how you sense yourself. And you'll probably join with others who think like you do because, well, you're free to do so. But as you do so, let me suggest that you ask the old Dr. Phil question. How is it working for you? How is it working for you? I highly suggest that the fifth dimensional view is much, much, much more complete. Allow your fourth dimensional free rational mind to bridge you into a more complete view of life, not neglecting the body and the world, but not being limited by them, rather allowing the higher dimension, your soul self, to be your guide. I believe that this is not only what you need and I need, but what the world needs as well. Let me now take you into meditation. Let us now begin our meditation today just very beautifully by first of all just taking a moment to be in the quiet space, just to feel that presence within you. And we will make our intention today the fourth dimension, a bridge to the fifth. Let us now begin our meditation as we are wont to do by simply taking a few moments to focus on the breathing. Focusing on breathing in and breathing out. But again, do not be lackadaisical. Focus on it. Feel the breath coming into you. Feel the breath going out of you. Please begin. Now what I ask you to do is to gently feel your calmness. Feel your alertness, your attention, but in a very calm way. Settle yourself. Settle your body, your mind, your emotions, and just come to this point of, well, here I am. This is me. Calmly come to this point of knowing yourself. Now what I'm going to do is to ask you to notice several things. First of all, would you notice that you have a body? Just notice your physicality. Take a look at it. Don't enter into it. Just take a look at it. See the body you have sitting in your chair or room. Just notice the body. Yes, I have one. Now would you notice your life situation in the world? You live in a home or apartment, certain city, perhaps working, perhaps retired, living with someone or group of people. This is your life situation. Just take a moment to notice the worldly you. Your physical body in your worldly situation comprise your sense of self from the third dimension. I get it. I get it. I have a body. I'm in the world. Let's now go to the fourth dimension. Let me suggest this guidance for you. First of all, just take a breath for a moment, focus on the breathing, and let me guide you. First, would you acknowledge the fact that you're free? There's no one who can tell you what to do. But you will eventually tell yourself what to do. Just acknowledge that. You are self-creating. You do it through your thoughts. spend another moment on this. No one can tell you what to do, but you'll tell yourself what to do. Go a little deeper into this. Now that was the first part of the rational mind, namely that you are free. Let's now go into the second part of the rational mind, the notion of thought itself. Just follow me. This will be fun and you're also illuminated. Would you take a moment right now just to think about maybe what you're going to have for dinner after today's service? Just focus on something you might have for dinner. Now stop thinking for a moment. Just don't think at all. I'll tell you something else in a moment, but for right now, just no thought at all. Now, think about the place that you're living. Retirement center, home, apartment, condo. Just think about the environment in which you're presently living. Okay, stop thinking, no thought at all. I'll give you another thought in just a moment, but for now, no thinking. Just take a breath. Now, would you think about your car? Just wherever it might be, outside, in a garage, what year, what color. Just focus on your car and perhaps knowing I haven't taken it out for a drive for quite a while. Just focus on your car. Okay, just stop that for a moment and no thinking. Just no thinking for a moment. Now the question. Who were you when you were not thinking? You were alert. You were aware that you weren't thinking. Thinking dinner, house, car, were functions, mental functions. But who were you? You weren't your body. You weren't your life situation. Third dimension. You were not your thoughts. Fourth dimension. Who were you? You're quite alert. You're quite aware. This is the soul self. Do you not clearly see this? Absorb this. This is me, soul self. Now, do you not clearly see how the fourth dimension, your free rational mind, has been a bridge to this fifth dimensional sense of self right here, right now? Do you not see how the freedom in the thought have bridged to you? I'll say it again. Do you not see how the fourth dimension of thought has bridged to you in the fifth dimension as a soul self? Right here, right now. And now from your soul self, how this is such a much more complete view of you in dealing with the coronavirus. Do you not see this clearly? Do you not clearly see how the fourth dimension of thought has become an antidote because it has bridged you to your fifth dimension of self? Now you see things more clearly. During the week, return to this teaching and meditation regularly. It will be archived on YouTube, and perhaps you'll like to review the previous one from last week, archived as well. Again and again, come back to these teachings and the meditations until you see who you are. And notice the effect that your higher fifth dimensional sense of self has in store for you. For you are a Christed being of light and love in a physical body. Please now bring your attention back into that present moment you right now. And may you, first of all, just notice how good you feel. How good you feel. This is me. This is you. And would you take a moment to send your loving energy to everyone else who is on this call with you right now. Send your loving energy in our supportive oneness. And your eyes still closed, or just nicely opening your eyes, let me now play for you Namaste. now feel your beauty, the wonder of your creation. This is what we're ready to bring forward. Please do not look at what you're doing, but rather how you're doing what you're doing. It's the energy that is the connector. May I simply welcome you back by thank you again for being with all of us here this morning. How supportive we are to each other. What an absolute joy it is to be together. Remember what I said? Joy is a place of energy within you. It's your bliss. It's the elixir of life. And it is from this joyful presence that we go forward in our daily living. This is the most real thing in our lives. What fun. So together let us voice our acclamation that we enjoy so much. I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. We are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste, dear mighty, mighty, mighty souls. Namaste. I applaud for all of us. Bravo and kudos to all.